in a world of information or non-information, misinformation circulating in social media. Media literacy is just a big problem for all of us, I think, and we're talking wise about children, but media literacy is now a problem for everybody, I think, because the problem with fake news is, in a sense, more to do with adults than it is to do with children. It's adults that can't distinguish which things are true or right and which things are entirely made up.
I think that by positing media literacy as something to be taught, we're giving it the responsibility to our teachers who are so overburdened and to students to learn it, when in fact it's a community responsibility. So as members of the media, myself, I have a responsibility. Everyone I work with has a responsibility to be honest, open, transparent, and to make sure that the media climate is as trustworthy as possible.
And we're talking about fake news tomorrow, but tomorrow will be other things, tomorrow will be other devices, tomorrow will be other ways of disseminating information. So we're caught in this very quick phenomenon, and we don't know what will be the landscape in 5 to 10 years. The second thing is it's very hard to define fake news. Between fake news and real news, there is a world of options. Opinion, for example, is opinion fake or non-fake? We have to be really mindful that there is good side to that. The digital revolution, the social networks, it opened access to a lot of people who could not express themselves, including journalists in some part of the world. You have the evolution of something very new, which is called citizen journalism. Some big stories were were broken by people on the street. You cannot control fake news if you don't understand the world you live in. If you want to understand the world you live in, you have to get back to history, you have to get back to geography, you have to get back to literature, you have to get back to this whole set of knowledge which is part of our society and which is very important to transmit to younger people. I think we will see a backlash of regulatory laws, regulatory control of internet, control of fake news, libel laws. All that stuff is coming back because the machine is getting out of control. How the states can intervene, how the parliaments can intervene to put some order in that crazy digital thing coming on without being anti-democratic.
It's easy, if we're having this conversation, to become really concerned about misinformation and all of these things which are clearly bad, and then you might end up in a situation where you're then basically spreading fear of the internet or digital media to children, which isn't necessarily a great starting point, because as you say, it does give young people and all of us opportunities to express ourselves, which people simply didn't have before. And, endless opportunities and good things can come from the communication and communities that we can foster online. Those good things are all true. At the same time, you've also got all the bad things that we tend to talk about in a situation like this, all of which are also true. And then how can we talk to young people where we foster critical thinking and all these things that you've mentioned, and at the same time, not just make them think, oh, the internet's horrible, we shouldn't be looking at that, or thinking that it's not a source of information when clearly it is a source of information.
We have to look at what emotion are we being triggered to feel by the material in front of us. If the intent is inherently persuasive, you have to put it in a different category. And so when something's trying to get you to believe something very quickly, without a lot of citations or evidence, that's a reason to doubt it. And that's a clear move that we can teach our children to make, and I think we can motivate it through a feeling of curiosity that's mitigated by a little bit of healthy skepticism. We can't be authoritarian in our mode of education, right? We can't force our children or mold our children to expect to see the right answer printed at the back of the book. Because what we're trying to do is mold critical thinkers, and in order to do that, we need to ask questions and listen and get them to ask questions.
There's one provocative point is most of these people who consume fake news, they want to believe what's written. What's new is we have those technical outlets, technical mechanisms that spread this fake or real or wrong or opinionated news around millions of people. It's probably an opportunity for renewal. I mean, traditional media, they kind of lost the momentum for a couple of, maybe a decade or two, between having to drive through authoritarian regimes, democracy, funding, finance, advertising, all that stuff just blurred the lines. And suddenly, we have a new role again. We are the guy who's supposed to mediate between facts and people. And so suddenly, we rediscover the fact of news checking, newsrooms, editors, sub-editors, and our business becomes relevant in an age where too much stuff is confused and blurred. This is a very good point. I mean, all those big social networks, they don't want to be called media. They don't want to assume the responsibility. But when you're Facebook and you're picking media stuff by either algorithm or because some people are selecting them, you being a media and you having a social responsibility. You cannot say I'm just a social network. Twitter is a media. Twitter can influence people to bring news, so they have to play by the rules. And it's very difficult for them because they were not meant for that.
I think that we can do more. We can train, we can be in dialogue, we can put out our own guidelines for people that want to be part of the citizen journalism world, and I think we can partner a lot more.
It's the same in the Western world for different reasons, and the same in the Arab world or any other region. Now, at least because of this web environment, you have alternative stuff, which is good, wrong, fake, opinionated, real, non-real, motivated, non-motivated, but at least you have some diversity which allows you to try to understand what's going on really. And that, I think, is very important. So independence and diversity are the key word for the whole media business in the next coming years. And the third key word is technology again, because technology may allow, on the good side, more independence because you can access to people directly.
If I were going to create a media literacy educational program, I think we've covered a lot of the great key elements here. Basic humanities, the basics of rhetoric and intent of different types of writing, forms of writing, visual literacy, how images are used to persuade. This emotional self-regulation, this idea of that you must know how you're feeling because of something that you've read and be able to articulate that feeling and the strength of that feeling in order to, or read or seen, and your desire to share it with others is all an indicator of how deeply you should inquire and check. And the final point that I would emphasize would be curiosity. That in the end, you go back to Socrates, right? What I know is that I know nothing. And the problem of fake news is the problem of an epidemic of certainties, that people are believing things that are demonstrably untrue, and they believe them really hard. And there's so many of them. How do you even manage to believe so many impossible things before breakfast, right? That to encourage a little more doubt and questioning in our kids, and the way to do that is also to ask them questions and to elicit questions from them and to not pretend that we have all the answers, which is convenient because we don't.
As I said, there's a good side and a bad side, and we have to focus on the good side, the freedom that it brings to many people, the possibilities of expression for many people who were not able to express themselves, the new approach of citizen journalism, which will evolve, the fact that every one of us can say what he wants, but also every one of us can set up a media operation. But if you go for media, because media literacy, again, the word media is very important. If you go for media, there are rules. Facts are important. Truth is important. Editing is important. Contradicting views is important. Sources are important. You just don't go like that, spreading whatever you have in your head, except if you're politically motivated, and then we can fight on a political level.